And last summer during the gubernatorial campaign, I was traveling around the state and talking to voters in different parts of the state. And the evangelicals were one of the groups I was trying to get at. And the people I talked to, some of them, a substantial number of them, would say to me, "Yeah, that's great. They can tell us to vote for this one and that one." So, we go to church on Sundays. We want to hear a faith message. We want to hear a religious message. We want to hear something that speaks to our faith and not a bunch of politics. So some of the rank and file, I think, are getting tired of being used as kind of this ward club. Because these people are deciding, is this really why we created this large mega church, where we're tithing 10% of our income to every week, and we came here for spiritual help, not political help. So they're getting a little bit more independent, and natives are getting restless. And that's kind of why you see all these leaders of the fundamentalists and the evangelicals starting to scatter all over the place. One of them's over here, one of them's over here, one of them's over here. They can't get together on a candidate because their people can't get together on a candidate.
Well, they also don't have the perfect candidate anymore.
Beg pardon?
They don't have the perfect candidate anymore.
Who's that?
Well, yeah, Romney. No. He's a Mormon.
How could he would be the guy, you would think. He's moving up in the polls. But, there's a lot of them that say, well, he can't be, he's not electable. Yeah, that whole thing's changing. I mean, it's going to evolve, and it's going to be a whole lot different impact than it was in the 2004 campaign, or even in the state election here in 2006.
If Dobson starts a third party, that will be the death knell for the GOP.
Let's hope he does win single money.
I mean, I did find the Pat Robertson thing interesting. Yeah, they don't have candidates.
Well, that's him that's Pat Robertson getting attention. That's not.
I know. And the problem with that, and I don't know if Rudy understands this, is that's fine, and that might help you pull a few votes in South Carolina or someplace. But you stuck with him. He ain't going to shut up. And sooner or later he's going to blame, something on somebody and start calling down meteors.
It'd be ironic if the New York slicky get outdone by a Southerner.
Yeah, that is the Republican dilemma. And it happened to Ken Blackwell, and it can happen to Rudy Giuliani, it can happen to any of these guys. They got to play to a certain crowd in the primaries. But sooner or later the primaries are over and you've got to run in a general election and you're stuck with them. You can't get rid of them. It's like gum on your shoe. And because and I know that is not where elections are decided. They're not decided over here. They're not decided way over here. They're decided right here. And in Ken Blackwell's case, I mean, he did that and cozied up with those folks, and they got him the nomination. They won him the primary. No question about that. But, and Ken's a smart guy, and Ken knew that after the primary was over, he had to run back to the center. But the problem was, when he ran back to the center, he found the guy sitting there. Ted Strickland, who was already there. And, at that point, it was over. There was no chance in the world of Ken Blackwell becoming governor of the state of Ohio. Ted Strickland had bought that real estate a long time ago and parked there. And he'd been doing it for years and years down in southeast Ohio, and I used to live down there, and it's, it's not easy as a Democrat to get them elected down there. But he did it, and he knew how to do it. He knew how to do it in a statewide election. Yes, Marilyn.
Do you want to talk about the Ted needs help on the Democratic side in the State House? State races starting with Connie.
Number one.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got a lot of and they have a realistic shot, Democrats do, of taking back the Ohio House, through candidates like Connie and a lot of targeted races around the country, or around the state. That could make a big difference, too, because it's an apportionment board, so you have a lot to say about how the lines are drawn the next time. That's why it's probably, the state senate is pretty much out of reach. That's like 21-12, and, Democrats can forget about that. But it is realistic to think that Democrats could win the House in 2008, and a lot of that will have to do with how strong the presidential candidate is and how many votes that candidate can draw out that might not have been there otherwise. So pick your presidential candidates carefully.
I think in fairness to Howard, maybe this should be the last question over here so that we can give him a chance to rest and
Pat gets the
share
last
preference.
question.
Pat gets the last question.
And I'm not asking about Brian, but I was thinking that maybe you may have talked about this before I got here, but the jail race I thought might really bring out a huge African-American vote, because everybody I knew who was African-American totally opposed to jail.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the white folk I know kind of held their noses and voted for it, but I just wonder what you think about that. And then the fact that the three closest non-finishers were African-American previously. I don't know what happened with that, and I haven't had a chance to think about it. But since you're here, I don't have to think about it.
Yes, I better think about it. Well, yeah, you're right, and it didn't turn out that way. I mean, people were expecting kind of this push out of the African-American vote. Didn't happen. I think there's probably a lot of reasons for that. I mean, it wasn't, in the African-American community, I think they could sense that this, like with the school levy, this wasn't like the final round. This was like the preliminary bout. And that maybe they could, sit this one out, and that the real fight was going to come later. The jail tax thing, I think, was just, I don't think it got anybody particularly excited, black, white, or otherwise, that people went to the polls and said, I'm not listening to this side, I'm not listening to that side, I don't like taxes, boom. And I don't think it generated the kind of excitement and anger and passion and, those sort of emotions that it did among the principals. The county commissioners and the sheriff and the people on the other side, they were yelling, and the public was just kind of sitting in the room. We've seen this act before. Anybody else?
Howard,
Okay.
thank you very, very much.
That's all.